Who's going to have breakout seasons for the Illini football? Jeremy Werner and myself give you our answers right after this.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day of the orange and blue. Everything you see and hear is absolutely free. Only thing I ask for in return is if you can hit that like button, let me know, let YouTube know, and let Locked On know that you guys are watching this content. Today, we're going to have a very fun episode for you, a very cool endeavor for me. I'm going to have special guest Jeremy Werner on the other side of this break, and he and I are going to discuss the Illini football season. We're going to talk Illini basketball a little bit. This is one of my favorite episodes to do every single year. Well, I guess this is only the second time I'm doing it here at Locked On Illini, but it's my flag players episode. This is the opportunity for me to plant my flag on whether it's a younger player or a more established player and say, hey, you know what? That's my guy. So you're going to hear both from me and Jeremy right after this. All right, my guest today is no stranger to Illini fans. I say this constantly on this show. If you're an Illini fan and you're looking for premium content, you're not going to find it any better than the boys at the Illini Inquirer do. And so today, it's an honor for me. I finally get the Jeremy Werner on the show. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us.
Sonny, thanks for having me, man.
So, Jeremy, you and I, we were at Big Ten Media Days just a couple of weeks ago, and we were two tables apart. Right in between us were the Kings of the North show, and those guys were very vocal about having Illinois at 11-1 in their predictions this year. You've been covering the Illini for a lot longer than I have. When you hear stuff like that, like, have the Illini ever had this sort of expectation and positive energy coming into the season?
Especially not outside of Champaign. Yeah. I feel like even outside of Champaign, there's a little more caution thrown to the wind or less caution thrown to the wind because they see what Illinois has from the outside. 16 of 22 starters returning, 18 from the Citrus Bowl win. You get your quarterback, your whole offensive line, most of the back end of your defense, right? And you have stars, like legitimate stars with NFL draft potential on your team. So I think, here locally, there's a little bit more caution because of the history of Illinois football. And I think Illinois fans are still trying to catch up with, yes, we should have expectations, at least part of the fan base. I do think Illinois fans should be very, very excited about this season. I think there's as high of a floor for this team as any team I have seen, not only because of what you return, but also because of the depth that is accruing. And that is one thing that always seems to catch up with Illinois late in the season, including 2022, which was a very, very good year. What was different about last year is when you did have injuries at running back or DB, or linebacker, you had guys who could step in and play and give you quality snaps and allow you to continue to be pretty good. 2023, they did. O-line, D-line especially, you didn't have those guys. So I think that is another reason to be excited about this team. But the Big Ten is hard. Expectations are different for this team. It is nice that this team experienced the failure of 2023, at least some key pieces of this team, to know of, we still have to be focused. Nothing is handed to us. When you play 10 Power 4 games, even if, the Big Ten schedule does set up opportunities, it's difficult. So to answer your question, though, what I took away from Big Ten Media Days was the national chatter about Illinois, the chatter that we heard on Radio Row, not only from Kings of the North, but you hear Nebraska stations and all these other stations from across the Big Ten talking about Illinois like it is a top 5 team. They're voted number 4 in the Big Ten. Now we'll see how they handle those expectations, but it's certainly an exciting time.
Yeah, I think you described me to a T. As soon as the offseason started, I felt like I went on other shows and I wanted to hype up the Illini. Hey, to the national audience, we've got a lot of players returning, anywhere from 17 to 18 starters. We just won 10 games. And now, as the summer has been progressing, and all of a sudden these national outlets are releasing their predictions, and I'm seeing 9, 10, 11 wins. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm the guy who's like, wait, is that too much? Is that being a little bit too optimistic? But it's one of those where I've been a fan for 20 plus years. And, as you mentioned, it's like, we're just not used to this. Sometimes I'm usually the positive guy when it comes to football compared to the listeners and the community we've gotten. But now it's me trying to look at this schedule. Like, yeah, we are avoiding Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, but that doesn't, I still think Washington's going to be a really good team. I still think USC is always going to have a lot of talent. So it's tricky for me just trying to figure out where I'm going to ultimately fit in. I haven't done my game by game predictions list yet. I don't think you have either, but it's fun to have this much energy. Let's just put it that way. And if Illinois were to win 11 games, let's just say you have a crystal ball, you find out that those predictions came true. What makes you confident saying, okay, this must have happened in order for 11 wins to happen?
I think we have to start at the coaching. Right. I think it all has to start there. Brett Bielema is a very, very good coach, and he has assembled what I think is the strongest staff I have covered at Illinois. Barry Lundy Jr. is the most tenured offensive coordinator in the Big Ten. And while we can pick apart this play, that play from a certain game, he has improved the Illinois offense drastically. It is not an offense that is always going to put up 35 points per game, but every year it continues to tick up and up. And last year they averaged 28 points a game. I remember the years of 12, 13 points a game, right? In the Big Ten. It has been a huge uplift from him. He's developed quarterbacks incredibly well. And I love the balance that he has with running the football and the quarterback. And I thought Aaron Henry took a huge step forward. I thought the last 4 games of the season especially were very strong for him. The way they were able to kind of cover up the linebacker issues that they had. Wasn't a great running defense, wasn't a great third down defense, but they still found a way to win games and set up their offense to have chances at the end of the game. So I would start there. I think it's a strong coaching staff. Terrence Jamison, Bart Miller, I think are good at what they do. So I would start there. The other reason is you got a quarterback. You got a guy at quarterback, and Luke Altmaier's acting like the guy. Like, he's got a swagger and a confidence right now that we didn't see maybe at the start of last year, and definitely did not see in his first year as a starter. So we obviously got question marks that we'll probably get to, but the fact that you have a guy at quarterback and you feel like you go into each game feeling like your coaching staff and your quarterback are an advantage, that's significant, whether you're in the NFL, college football, high school football, whatever level you are at. The other reason I think the defense is going to be pretty good. You have a star edge rusher in Gayback. He's trimmed down a little bit, but he's already proven he's going to be a great player. Seems like he's projected to be a top 100 pick, maybe a second round, maybe a first round, late first round draft pick. So you have a guy that can get after the quarterback like that. Not a lot of teams do. And then you have a secondary that I think has multiple stars, and Xavier Scott, Matthew Bailey, bunch of experience. You just have a bunch of experience everywhere there. I have some question marks about a part of the defense, but I think this defense is going to be pretty good and be consistent. And then just the offensive line. Five returning starters. I'm a little nervous with the injuries they've had early on in training camp, to be honest with you. I do get concerned if they have multiple injuries up front. Depth is still a little bit of a concern for me on the offensive line, but the 5 starters, they have 5 guys who all could be in the NFL at some point. I think J.C. Davis and Melvin Priestley are going to be draft picks. I think Josh Geske and Josh Cruz have a chance to be getting a combine invite next year. And I think Brandon Henderson, I think he's going to play 2 more years at Illinois, but I do think he's got NFL potential as well. So when you got advantages on the offensive line, quarterback, secondary, coaching staff, and a star edge rusher, that's a pretty good start for a team. Absolutely, especially considering our history, and it's a testament to where Brett Bielema is bringing this program. So our friends and sponsors of the show, FanDuel, have the over/under at 8.5 for the Illini this year. Let's say you look back into that crystal ball and you finish with 6 wins, or whatever the worst case scenario that you can kind of imagine with this type of schedule. What do you think happened? Yeah, barring a catastrophic injury at quarterback, sure. Right? Luke Altmaier, I do think that would be the absolute floor for this team. Because we can talk about the schedule, like the end of the schedule is really advantageous. When you got Rutgers, Maryland, Wisconsin, which I think could be an issue up in Madison this year, and then Northwestern and Purdue, I think you got a really nice track to a bowl game. When the number was 7.5, I would have been pounding the over there. 8.5 is a really good number. I think that's a really good number, and I know under that would disappoint Illinois fans given the expectations. But again, it's just hard. It's hard to win in the Big Ten. The biggest question mark is who's catching the ball, right? Like, who is consistently going to be the guy that Luke Altmaier can go to when they are in duress, they need a play to be made. Zachary Franklin was one of those guys last year. We kind of overlook his impact because of what Pat Bryant did, but Zachary made some huge plays, and he was the most targeted receiver on the team last year by 15 targets. He played one more game than Pat, but still, if they would have just ended the season after 12 games, Zachary was the most targeted guy. So I don't want to overlook his loss. But of course, Pat Bryant was had an epic season. I hadn't seen a guy make that many clutch catches in my time covering Illinois, and very few in the Big Ten. So to lose those two guys, I think you have the talent. I think you have more depth than you've ever had, but you just have unproven guys. So Colin Dixon, Malik Elsley, Hank Beatty all have to elevate their games, but you did bring in Hudson Clement, Justin Bullock. They're excited about Braden Trimble. I think it might take time for the freshmen to come in, but even Alex Kapka-Jones, Mario Sanders sound like if those are your third string guys, you got depth there, and I think you got guys who are capable. It's just who steps up, has confidence to be what Pat Bryant was, what Isaiah Williams was, to be honest, what Casey Washington was at the end of the 2023 season. I think it's to be more spread out, but at some point, one or two guys really have to emerge as those trusted targets. The other thing I would say is, losing Josh McCray, there's a very small thing. Pass blocking from the running back position is going to be really important. I think Caden Fagan has got to really help there. He's got the potential to do it. Stopping the run on defense. They weren't very good at it last year. They kind of got around it. They were able to force some turnovers that overlooked some of those things. And you lost T-Raw Edwards. You lost Dennis Briggs. I'm high on James Thompson. Kurt Neal is a proven Big Ten player. Tamu Adirjaye looks the part. They've added a lot of depth up front. They're getting more mature in their depth. But it's just still a question mark for me. Can they consistently stop the run? And then the third down defense. They were one of the worst in the country last year getting off the field. So if you're looking to poke holes in the team, that's where I would look. And there's a few positions where depth can be a concern, whether it's the star, whether it is the offensive line. And if Luke Altmaier does ever miss time, is Ethan Hampton or Carson Boyd, are they capable of helping you win a game? So those are nitpicky, but those are the nitpicky things about Illinois I think you can find.
All right. Right after this, Jeremy and I are going to pick our flag players. Who is going to break out for the Illini this upcoming season? We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for the show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Ever wonder what your view will look like right before you buy? This app will show you a panoramic seat view, so there are going to be no surprises. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest priced, guaranteed. All right, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button on this particular video. It helps me grow continually. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. Can you believe it? In 15 months, we've become the second most watched Illini channel on YouTube, all because of your guys' support. Now we got guys like Jeremy Werner on the show. We continue to grow because of your guys' support. We're only a couple weeks away from football season, guys. August 29th, Friday night, Western Illinois. Speaking of that game and beyond, Jeremy, this is actually one of my favorite episodes I do every single year, and it's called my Flag Players episode. And essentially what you do is this is your opportunity to plant your flag on a guy, and essentially so that future listeners or people watching the show, when they watch a game and this guy makes a big play or has this successful season, they're going to come back to this particular episode and be like, you know what? Jeremy told me about this guy. We'll pick one guy on offense. We'll pick one guy on defense. You're the guest of honor. I'll let you start.
Yeah, I want to go with a wide receiver. And I am bullish on Malik Elsley. I think he can have a season like Pat Bryant had as a sophomore, maybe a junior. But the guy I would plant my flag on is Colin Dixon. I just think he kind of gets overlooked because of last year, because of the two guys you had. But he played a bunch of snaps, was the starting slot. He's got the versatility to play on the outside. I think of any wide receiver, he has solidified 500 plus snaps. And that means a lot of targets are going to come his way at some point. It means he's going to have some kind of production. So I don't know if he leads Illinois in receiving or receiving yards or touchdowns, but I know he's going to make a huge impact in that wide receiver room. And I know the staff trusts him. I know they can count on him. I know he's going to play a lot. So I think he's really going to emerge as one of those consistent guys of the offense, part of an engine. And, when you don't have Bryant and Franklin on the outside, where did Barry Lunny go through his first 2 years? It was that slot position, that slot receiver with Isaiah Williams. And if Colin Dixon plays some snaps there, I think they can get him the ball. He's like a running back in space. He's not a burner, but he can go win contested catches. So I would plant my flag in Colin Dixon being a high impact.
All right, I'm not going to lie. You made me a little nervous when you said you were going to go wide receiver because I picked one myself, but I went in a slightly different direction. I'm going to go with Justin Bowick when it comes to the offensive side, only because we've talked about, in the last 2 years, we've got 4 wide receivers who are now playing at the NFL level, and we're going to be missing Pat Bryant. We're going to be missing Zachary Franklin. Justin Bowick had a really productive 4 games last season, scoring or having 383 yards, 3 touchdowns. And more importantly, I love the size. When you're talking about 6'4", 6'5", over 200 pounds, I think this upcoming season, if he can be the guy that Luke can kind of throw it up to in the end zone, he can come down because we have 14 or 15 touchdowns that we need to replace between the wide receivers that we're kind of losing. And so Justin, is a guy who I think is kind of overlooked a little bit just because, we got Hudson Clement, who I think was the second highest rated transfer wide receiver this past offseason. We have the young players. You mentioned Colin Dixon. There's been a lot of hype coming with Malik Elzy, of course, the 4-star, one of the big original commitments that Brett Bielema had won. I think Justin is a guy that, Hank Beatty and Hudson Clement, I think they complement each other. They have very similar skill sets when it comes to what you're going to see on the field. But Justin, between just his size and his production last year, I think he's the guy that I'm just kind of keeping my eye on to see if he becomes the end zone target, once we get close, especially with Luke and with that offensive line. I think we both agree offensive line looks promising. Running back room is very talented. The wide receiver room is very talented. We just don't know which guy is going to be the ones who step up. And right now, at least for this season, I'm going to go ahead and plant my flag on Justin. Any thoughts on Bowick?
Yeah, he's the next factor. I know Luke Altmaier's really intrigued by him. 6'5", ridiculous catch radius, really fast straight line. I do think Malik is a little smoother in his route running from what I have seen. He's more, I think Malik's blocking is going to get him on the field a lot. So Bowick has some things that I think he needs to prove. The one thing he can do, he can win contested catches. And I think there's a role for him for several hundred snaps, just being that guy who can be a deep threat, being the guy in the red zone that Luke Altmaier attacks. So it would not surprise me if Justin Bowick had a handful of touchdowns.
All right, let's switch over to the defensive side. Who do you have?
All right, I went deeper because I think we know the guys who are going to be really good with the back end, the linebackers, and James Thompson and Gabe Akis up front. A kid that shines every time I see him. We don't get to see a lot of practice. But when I do, whenever it's physicality, whenever it's hat on hat, hitting pads, Angelo McCollum is one who really stands out. And at nose tackle, they have to replace T-Raw Edwards, and they have Kurt Neal coming from Wisconsin. Probably be my favorite to win the starting job. Had a good spring. Jeremiah Warren returns. He was part of the rotation last year. But Angelo McCollum is disruptive. He's strong, even though he's kind of undersized, at least lengthwise. But he's always in the backfield. He's always winning one-on-ones from what I see. He's always splitting double teams. So I don't know if it's 200 snaps that you see Angelo McCollum or it's 400, 500. But I do think I have to trust my eyes when I see him in practice that this is a guy that can be disruptive and could be, an X factor in a defensive line rotation that has a lot to prove.
I like that one. I'm fully admitting I went very lazy when it comes to the defensive side, just because I've had conversations with Ryan Herrings from Locked On Badgers. In Las Vegas, I had conversations with Nick Osen, who you're familiar with on Badgers 24/7. what he's told me about James Thompson Jr., I don't know if Illinois fans fully embrace it yet. When it comes to the defensive side, we know we have Gabe. We know we have a secondary that is very talented. It's going to be very strong. If there's a position group that we do have some new players coming in that I do have question marks on, it's that defensive line. And I think if James can be not just a good player, but a very good player, that's going to all of a sudden raise the ceiling of this Illini team even more. It's going to help Gabe become a top 75 draft pick maybe in the NFL next year. When it comes to the defensive line, we have three new Badgers on that line. I think James, if he can reach the ceiling, at least the way Ryan and Nick have been talking to me about, potential all Big Ten type of guy, then I think all of a sudden, all that optimism of over 8.5 wins, 10 wins, that becomes a lot more real.
Yeah, the expectation is James Thompson is going to be their best defensive lineman. That's why I didn't take him, just because the expectation is so high for him. They think he can be an NFL player. Dennis Briggs was really good at disrupting the backfield. I think James Thompson can be better against the run, but he's been pretty dominant from what I have seen. So yeah, James Thompson is a guy that I expect to be one of their 5 best defensive players and one of their 2 best on the defensive front, along with Akis.
Yeah, I totally cheated on that one. Okay, right after this, we're going to do a quick Q&A. The community has a lot of questions for Jeremy. All right, Jeremy, we got a couple questions from you. You were so humble to agree to come on the show. I reached out to the community, and I got a lot more responses than I thought I was going to have. So we'll do a quick rapid fire, answer what you can and what you don't want to answer. This first one I don't think you're going to answer, but I have to ask anyway because it was the most asked. Who's replacing Derek Piper?
No one person is replacing Derek Piper for the moment. I have been covering more of the basketball recruiting angle. We do have a few younger guys coming in to help us starting this fall, some University of Illinois students who are going to be seniors in school that are going to help us out. And I'm very excited about their long term. But no one person is going to come in and replace Derek Piper right away. He was obviously so great at what he does. We're so happy for him, spending more time with the family. He's got a job out in the real world now out there in Champaign-Urbana in the community. So I'm really excited for him. He gave us so much over the years, and really appreciate Haley, his wife, giving us so much of his time. But happy for him, proud of him as father. And but we're looking forward to the future. I got Joey Wagner locked up for a few years, and he's as good of a writer as there is. Absolutely. So looking forward to putting him a little bit more on basketball. And we're still covering the basketball recruiting angle. We've been covering that with the recent commits that they've had, and we're excited about what we're going to bring in here as well.
That's a perfect transition. Obviously, Illinois basketball has had a couple commitments over the past week, and I'll be honest, my community isn't exactly super excited about where the star rankings are and whatnot. Now, is that an area of concern for you at all when it comes to the prep recruiting? And do you think that Brad has kind of adjusted his focus and strategy when it comes to building his basketball team?
Listen, I think Ethan Brown's a really good player. I think he's underrated. Guard out of Missouri. He's the 4-star composite. We have him as a high 3-star. I'm shocked Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota didn't push hard for him because I turned on his film, and the guy that I immediately thought of as a prep prospect, mind you, I'm not saying he'll be this guy, but he reminded me of Christian Brown, who went to Kansas, was similarly ranked. He was like 145 in the country. Ethan Brown's 144. Just their skill sets, able to play off ball screens, be an off guard, be on the ball if you need to as a secondary playmaker. And there's a vertical explosiveness that, just because Ethan Brown is white does not mean he's not athletic. He's a really good athlete. I do have some concerns strength-wise. Defensively, he's going to have to develop. And that's the eval there, is that they can. Having Adam Fletcher certainly helps when you have that. So I know they are very excited about him. Landon Davis is definitely a developmental guy. But I think because you get white stretch 4, people assume what he is. I think his strength is defense. He's got length. He's got defensive versatility. He doesn't have explosive athleticism, but he does have some quicker feet. But most importantly, I think he's got some tenacity to him on the defensive end. What I need to see a little bit more from him is the offensive skill kind of continue to develop. He had a good shooting spring and summer. He needs to continue that and be more consistent with that. He does have some feel. He's a good passer. Passing shooting is obviously key for Brad. But I think what people forget is this is not, Landon Davis is not the star of this class. Ethan Brown probably is not going to be the star
Right.
of this class.
Right.
You need 15 roster spots, and Illinois is going to invest probably 14, 15 scholarships, right? Like, you need to fill out a roster, and not every player is going to be a top 100 prospect or a stud transfer, because even if the House settlement does not put a hard cap, Illinois does not have an unlimited budget, right? Like, so you still need players who are cost effective, who are willing to develop, and who literally will not be a problem for you. Michael Tulip tells me all the time, the guys who can spoil a locker room are usually guys 8 through 11 on your roster. So you need guys who are bought into what their role can be. They're willing to develop, like a Jake Davis, like a Jason Jaxtis, that potentially can help you in your rotation and eventually maybe can make a high impact for you. So I can see Landon Davis being a part of this rotation after a couple of years. I think Ethan Brown could be a starter and a high impact player for them eventually. But these are the guys that you're going to get mostly in the fall. Now in the spring, that's when you go big game hunting. So I don't understand the angst of landing these two guys. I really don't, because you have to fill out a roster. I understand you want to see the entire picture. We're not going to see that till April. So April is when you're going to go big game hunting. That's when you're going to land your top prospects who can wait until they see the entire roster. And then that's when you get your transfers. That's when those stars are going to come in here. And that's when you really build up your roster. So they got 2 commitments, 2 guys I think are interesting evals. We'll see if they work out. But most of all, I think Ethan Brown, I'm excited about. Landon Davis, I think, is just going to be a guy who's willing to develop, happy to be here, and maybe eventually can turn into a player for you.
Yeah, my response has been, what you could be doing is complaining about what's the number 10 and number 14 guy on the roster next year. Especially, we know Brad is taking it year by year at this point when it comes to roster construction. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about now, especially with how quickly Brad can, change his strategy when it comes to putting a roster together year to year. Another quick question. You can't say Aaron Henry. You can't say Barry Lundy Jr. Who is the next head coach on this coaching staff?
That's a good question. Thad Ward's an interesting one to me. I don't want to overlook him. I really think he's a really good coach. Is there an offense coordinator step in between that? But he's a guy I don't think we talk about enough, is one of those kind of guys. Corey Parker's an easy answer, I think, for a lot of people. The way he presents himself, the energy, I think eventually he's going to be a defense coordinator. You know who my bet might be? Terrence Jameson's so good at what he does. I think he could just be a defensive line coach and be $1 million defensive line coach down the line. I think Archie McDaniel, the linebackers coach. I think if there's a heir apparent to, if Aaron Henry left after this year, I think Archie McDaniel could be your defense coordinator next year, or somebody's going to steal Archie McDaniel to be their defensive coordinator within the next year or two. He's a really impressive guy.
All right, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. Not that my audience needs to know, but of course, can you at least let the few people who are watching who may not know who you are, where they can find your stuff?
Yeah, go to IlliniInquirer.com, 24/7 Sports Illinois. Just Google search that. And of course, right now we got a 50% off deal. So if you've never been a VIP member, you can sign up for that. You can sign up for $1 for your first month. Give us a try. So appreciate the opportunity, Sonny. Thank you, man.
Best in the business. Thank you, Jeremy. Special thank you again to Jeremy Werner for making his debut on Locked On Illini. I would say he was probably the most requested guest when it comes to the fans and the community, both via DMs and our Discord, which, by the way, the link should be in the description. Please join us. And so, again, like I say, this is my channel, but I try to appease what you guys want to watch. So if there's another guest you would like to see me bring on, let me know. And, let them know. Let them know via social media that you want them to come on to Locked On Illini, and I'm going to do my best to make that happen for you guys. Really proud of the show that we had today, and I promise you we're going to have a lot of more good ones this week. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you've liked this video, and until next time, ILL. Love you guys.